All right, so today we'll be studying variables and data types in the Python programming language. So let us first start with the variables. Uh, Here are some of the instructions how to introduce the variables in programming, Python programming. So the very first step you have is that you need to keep short and more descriptive names. And in the examples, as you can see, that name is a very short type of a variable. Then there is a full name, which is a little bit descriptive aspect. And then there is total volume, which is again talking about the descriptive name. So you can make variables of two types. One can be a short variable and the other can be a descriptive variable name. So the second instruction is that you cannot start the variable with a letter sorry, you can start a variable with a letter and an underscore character, as you saw from the above example. The third one is that you cannot start it with a number. In the example, you can see that two people, you cannot write a variable like this. Rather, what you can do is you can write it like person two or name one. Like you can add the number towards the end of the variable name you had already written, but you cannot enter it in this beginning. Moving on, we have the alphanumeric and underscore characters as mentioned in the example. You can, write the variable name in an alphabetical order or in underscore characters and like that. And you can also use numbers in them, but what is the pro tip that you're not supposed to write those numbers in the beginning. Then they are very case sensitive, which means that you need to take care of the uppercase and the lowercase. So the three from the example of age, as you can see, these are the three different types of variable. Python treats these three as different types of variables. So if you write all of these in the same manner, then Python will consider all the three as three different variables. So you have to take care of the lower and upper case. And lastly, the variable name cannot be of any of the Python keywords. There are some Python keywords, specific keywords for performing different or specific tasks. So you cannot use those keywords as variable names. These we'll be studying these keywords in the future, so you'll come to know that which words are to be avoided to keep as variable names. Generally, what we have is that we you know write like single alphabets like XYZ or ABC as the variable names, or sometimes if for descriptive or to make the code understandable, we use such kind of variables where we have like names short or descriptive like age, full name, or like total volume. All these are for descriptive and readable or easy codes, so that you yourself or any other person whom you are sharing your code with can understand it easily. Let's move to the data types. So there are basically 7 data types. Um, the first one is basically the integer data type. Then there is float, string, list, tuple, dictionaries, and sets. So we'll be studying all the 7 data types ahead. So to start with, we first have integers. You all know that integers are basically numbers, as you all have studied in mathematics as well. So these are the 3 examples we have here. So number 1 is b. So b is any variable in which you have stored the value 10. Now, if you are, making a calculator, or you're just adding up numbers or subtracting them, and you want the variable to already store a value, so this is how you do it. Like there is this b, a variable in which the value 10 is stored already. Moving on, you have the variable named as age, and in this it has stored the value 50. Now this 50 and this 10 is integer. So this is how a variable stores a value. And then there are pens. These might be number of pens or anything like that, which are 5. So this is how you store integers basically. Next up, we have float characters. So float, you all know, is like decimal places. All right. So these are with decimal places. And here again, we have 2 examples. One is of weight again. Weight here is the variable, which is storing this value. All right, and this is in decimal places, which is in Python programming language, we call the decimal places as float characters or float variable. All right, then we have balance. This is again, it can be a balance amount or anything like that. You have this particular value with decimal place. This is a float character. Then we have string data type. So now this is a very special kind of a data type. First of all, it is basically a sequence of characters which is enclosed in either single or double quotes. For example, you have the variable a here, which has a string. Now, this 10 is not an integer, it is a string. How we know it? Because of these inverted commas. Then you have this variable input named as input. It's just a random, variable which I have called input, and then I have, you know, entered this string here, that enter your age here. This is a string. Basically, string, as you can see from the above definition, it's a sequence of characters. All right, so these might be sentences, or like this C has full name. So you can enter your full name, whatever your full name is, you can enter that particular name in here with the inverted comma, so it will become a string. So what we are going to do is we are going to study these four things of the strings. First of all, we'll see how to access strings by indexing. Then we'll see how we can do this string slicing. And string slicing is basically, extracting a part of the string, a part of the data string that you have, created. Then we have the length of the string. So we'll see how we can, come to know about the length of the string, any string we have written. All right, length is basically how long the string is. Like if you have written a name, let's suppose Ali. So the length of that string will be 3 because Ali has 3 characters in it. All right. And lastly, we'll see how string concatenation is done. So it is basically, combination or joining the two strings by using an addition operator. We'll be seeing this in the code window. So let us move to the code window. Is the Visual Studio Code window visible? Is the screen visible to everyone?
वजीहा स्क्रीन अवेलेबल नहीं है आपकी.
Sir, Abhi?
Yes, now available.
All right. So what we are going to do is we are first going to create a file here. And let's say I'm going to name it as data types. So data types.py. Here we have created a file now. All right. And now we're going to write the code in this. So first of all, the very first, the tip or the instruction you can say is that we can,
एक्सक्यूज मी, वजीहा थोड़ा सा आप इसको जूम कर सकती हैं स्क्रीन को.
zoom. नहीं सर, ये zoom नहीं हो रही.
आप कंट्रोल प्रेस करके प्लस का बटन दबाएं जरा. हो रही, थोड़ा सा और कर दें. चले, ठीक हो गया.
Okay. So after creating the file, what we're going to do is we're going to add a comment here. So we use this hashtag for adding a comment. Let's say we can write practice code. So this is basically a comment just to make the code easily understandable or readable for any user who's working on it. So what we are going to first see is we talked about the variables in the beginning. So as you saw that variables can be in alphabets or they can be, short or longer or descriptive names and that kind. So let us move to data types. We have added a comment of data types here. So the very first data type which we talked about was integer. Let's suppose I create any variable named as z and I store an integer value in here. All right. So this is how an integer value is stored in a variable. Then let's say I have another variable named as x and I store a float value in it. So 25.4, let's say. So this is integer, then we have float, and now we are going to move to the string variable. So string variable, as we talked about, is basically in the inverted commas, either single or double quotes. Both are readable as the string characters. So for strings, first we are going to access strings. Let me introduce a string. Let's say I am going to store it in a variable named as a. I write a name, William. Now this is my character. How I am going to access this character? I am going to print. Print is the command to print the code. And a was my variable. Then I'm going to use these square brackets. These square brackets, and let's say I want to access this L. So I'm going to add 4 here. In the indexing part, it starts with 0. So this character is 0. Then this is 1. This is 2. This is 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there are 6 characters in William. Let's suppose I want to access L. I am going to add 3 here. When I'm going to run this code, I'll see that L in the display window right here. This L is basically the L in William, which I have called. So this is basically how we access a string. We first of all write the variable, then we introduce these square brackets, and then we mention the location of the particular character or the particular letter in that string which we want to access. So next was string slicing. How we can slice or extract a part of this character. So what we have here is William as our character. So if we want to extract like a little part of it, what we can do is we can simply again in the same format, first we're going to write a, then we're going to introduce the square brackets, and let's say I want to extract a particular part. So I'm going to write 1, 2, 3. The very 3 variables will be, the 3 letters of the word William will be printed here. Like this. All right. Okay. Next, what we had was the length of the string. So there is a function length. There's a function for length, which is len. So let's say I'm going to write it like this, and then I'm going to write len, and again curly brackets. Now I'm going to ask for the length of the string, and my string was a. So it will provide me with the length of that string I introduced. Here it says 7. So the length of William is basically 7. And lastly, I have the string concatenation. Okay, so let's say I'm going to write another name. B is John. All right, and then there is another variable named as C, which has let's suppose Do. So these are the two variables, and I am going to introduce another variable, and I am going to concatenate these. Concatenation is basically from the addition. So I'm going to add the two, like B, then I'm going to use this plus, and this is for a space between the two. Okay, so I'm going to add a space, and then I'm going to write C. So now let's see how is this going to be visible. And then I'm going to write print D. All right, let's run the code and see for the output. So this is how it's printed. Now, because I didn't, sorry, because I didn't make any space here, if I add a space here, then you will see that the two names, the first and the second name, are separated by a space. So this is how we actually run the code and look for the output. If there are any questions, you feel free to ask, please. Can anybody tell how many data types are there in Python programming language?
हेलो, आवाज आ रही है आपको?
जी आ रही है।
वजीहा?
जी जी
अच्छा वजीहा, आपने यहाँ पे हमें 7 टाइप्स के डाटा टाइप्स बताए हैं, जिसमें से आपने इंटीजर, फ्लोट और स्ट्रिंग को आज डिस्कस कर लिया है। बाकी
जी
जो हमारे पास रिमेनिंग बचे हैं वो आपने नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में डिस्कस करने हैं। तो आपने जो डाटा टाइप्स डिस्कस किए हैं वो 3 हैं आज,
जी जी
इंटीजर, फ्लोट।
स्ट्रिंग एग्जैक्टली।
अच्छा, मैंने कहा ये जो आपने सॉफ्टवेयर पे हमें रन करके दिखाया है, ठीक है,
जी
इसमें आपके हमारे पास हम मोर देन 1 वेरिएबल्स को भी ऐड करवा सकते हैं।
हाँ जी, बिल्कुल करवा सकते हैं आप। जिस तरह से मैंने आपको जो कॉन्कैटिनेशन की एग्जांपल दी थी, उसमें हमने बेसिकली पहले एक वेरिएबल में फर्स्ट नेम स्टोर किया था, फिर हमने सेकंड वेरिएबल में दूसरा नेम स्टोर किया था, एंड देन हमने थर्ड वेरिएबल में उन दोनों नेम्स को ऐड अप कराया था। सो आप बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं ज्यादा वेरिएबल्स ऐड।
ठीक है। और मतलब आपने जैसे एक जो ए बी लिया है, उसके बाद आपने आई थिंक डी के साथ उसको एक की में स्टोर करवा दिया, जो
जी जी
दोनों को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं। ठीक
जी
है।
बिल्कुल
और स्पेसिंग हमने उसी तरह से देनी है जहाँ पे आपने कॉमास, इनवर्टेड कॉमास पुट किए हैं,
बिल्कुल उसके अंदर
स्पेसिंग
आपने
के लिए।
स्पेस, हाँ जी, उसके अंदर आपने स्पेस लाजमी देनी है ताकि दोनों कैरेक्टर्स के बीच में, दोनों स्ट्रिंग्स के बीच में एक स्पेस आ जाए।
ठीक है, ठीक।
ठीक है, आज के लिए फिर इतना ही था। नेक्स्ट क्लास में हम बाकी की जो 4 रिमेनिंग डेटा टाइप्स हैं उनको डिस्कस करेंगे। सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग। अल्लाह हाफिज।
अच्छा, अच्छा वजीहा, सुने जरा,
जी जी
इनको क्विज की डेट भी बता दें, नेक्स्ट जो आ रहा है हमारा 3rd क्लास में।
ठीक है, नेक्स्ट क्लास में हम एक पहले लेक्चर थोड़ा सा कंडक्ट करके और देन हम एक छोटा सा क्विज रख लेंगे, जिसमें जो भी आपने फर्स्ट और सेकंड लेक्चर में हमने कवर किया अब तक। जो फर्स्ट लेक्चर में इंट्रोडक्शन था पाइथन के बारे में, उसके जो भी एडवांटेजेस थे, जो भी उसके फीचर्स थे वो, एंड देन सेकंड में जो हमने वेरिएबल्स के बारे में पढ़ा और जो 3 डेटा टाइप्स हमने कवर किए हैं, इनका एक छोटा सा कल नेक्स्ट क्लास से पहले एक छोटा सा क्विज होगा। सो बी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर इट।
ओके,
थैंक यू सो मच। अल्लाह हाफिज।
अल्लाह हाफिज। अल्लाह हाफिज।